I have come to realize how unfair life can be since I became aware of it 2 months ago. People sometimes stay with us for a long time, very close to us, but when their truth comes to the surface, we realize how little we know about them until the time comes. You can get more updates about cheating stories by clicking the bell icon and clicking the subscribe button. My ex-wife is named Luciana and she was 28 years old. I am Tucker, 29 years old. The beginning of our story can be found in our childhood years. Due to the death of my parents, I had to attend boarding school. This is the place where all of my bad times begin. As a classmate, I have always been subjected to bullying and torturing by some of my classmates. In class, Luciana was one of the students who, whenever she found me alone in the class, would come up to me and make fun of me in front of the whole class. As a kid, I was not a very friendly person from the start. Hence, I did not have a lot of friends as such. When I first entered the classroom, I was hurriedly seated on my chair as soon as I walked in. My daily routine consisted of sitting on the same chair on a daily basis. The weather was rainy, so when I sat down in the chair, everyone in the class started laughing, but I had no idea what they were laughing about. In spite of that, when I arose, I found that my ass had been filled with glue that Luciana had put on my chair. The teacher also laughed while I was cleaning it. She came and told me that it was okay, just clean it up on that day. I was very upset about that. In fact, she did not even punish her for what she did. It was impossible for me to forget the laughter of the class. There was a part of me that wanted to punish her. During the time that she was doing something in her cabin, as soon as I got to her, I pushed her and shouted at her. I made her energized by telling her that you would never know about my life because I don't even have parents and you can just bully people for your own amusement without even thinking twice about the feelings of the other people. It was then that I left. In the morning, when I went to class, I found a note of apology written by Luciana on my desk. As soon as I picked up this note, I threw it away. I told her to stay away from me. I did not want her. It now occurred to me that I had embarrassed her in front of everyone in the class. Afterwards, I felt regret and apologized to her for what I had done the following day. We became friends as a result of this. In real words, our story begins from this point on. My apologies for the background, but I felt it was necessary to tell you about how much of an old and strong connection we had, and yet she still cheated on me in spite of this. Anyway, after that, we both became very close. We studied, played, and we had a lot of fun during that time. Both of us were best friends, but at some point in our friendship, I began to like her more and more from the depth of my heart. However, I did not tell her about it because she was from Texas. Whenever she visited her parents, I always felt very alone without her in my life. In the blink of an eye, time flew by and we were both joining high school in no time. As well as that, we both started a part-time job working in sales at a local supermarket as well. Our morning routine consisted of going to school and then going to work. She was sitting with a guy once when I found her, as well as holding hands with each other. I was upset when I saw that scene. When I asked her about that guy, she responded that he was so cute and he looked like Brad Pitt. That was why she wanted to become a friend of him. Due to the fact that he was a playboy, I advised her not to get too close to him. It turned out that this was a part of her life and I was not supposed to tell her about it. However, when that boy tried to have intercourse with her afterward, she left him because she was not like those girls. She came to me and told me about the incident and I replied that I had already told you that boy was not a good one before. On that day, I told her that I loved her and because of that, I became jealous of him. As a result, she was not able to go to the other boys. As a result, we began to develop a relationship. It was a very pleasant time for us when we moved to college. While it was a struggle, we managed to do both along the way. It was my dream to have both of us get a job in the same company after college, but unfortunately we both got jobs in different companies. In the meantime, we got married and started a new chapter of our lives. The house we are renting is very close to the office where she works. Although it was a bit far from my office, I was able to get there by bus. It was one of our goals to be stable and to buy a new house as soon as possible in order to meet our needs. Until that time, we had decided not to have children. Both of us worked very hard in our jobs, and we were both very dedicated to it. We sometimes took vacations, but this was a very rare occurrence because we were saving up for our new home with that money. In spite of the many problems that we had, I remained calm and confident that one day we would be able to resolve all our problems. I did not usually use her gadgets, but on weekends we both watch a movie together to spend a good night. Our two of us were watching a romantic movie together, but because Luciana was so exhausted that she fell asleep during the movie, it was her laptop that caused her to fall asleep. When I found her sleeping, the movie ran for about 20 minutes, so I ended it because I was tired and it was useless to watch a romantic movie without her. I thought that if I let it charge until it was fully charged, I would be able to use Facebook on her laptop. After I opened the browser and saw her ID had already been logged in, the real problem became evident when I opened the browser. As soon as I opened the browser, I had the intention of just logging out of her account. However, unintentionally, I opened the inbox and found something very rude, that her boss had sent her some dirty jokes, and she also replied with a funny thought about duck. By chance, I met her boss once when we went to the office on a party together, so I was familiar with him. My attention is suddenly drawn to her and I take a look at her with a strange mind. As I was laying on bed, she was asleep next to me. As I read those messages, I could not believe what I was seeing. When I was in this situation, I wasn't certain that what I was going to do. I started scrolling further and I saw that Luciana has been chatting with him for a long time, a few weeks in fact. It was a 60-year-old man who was her boss. In the depths of my mind, I was drowning in a sea of negative thoughts about her, because in a matter of seconds, my trust had been broken. There was a feeling that I had not known who she was, despite the fact that we had been with each other for many years. With her, I felt like I was in the presence of a stranger. Getting out of bed was the first thing I did. At the time, I felt like I had a stomach ache that I could not get rid of. It was impossible for me to help myself, but to feel that my trust had been broken and that my head was going to explode any moment now. After finding these messages, I immediately woke up and showed her what I found. As soon as I showed her the messages, she was shocked and she asked if I could explain it to you. If you could listen, it is imperative that you tell me immediately. My eyes were filled with tears as well as my cheeks were flushed with tears. During that time, she held my hand and told me that she would tell me something so that we would be able to resolve any misunderstanding. She said that her boss was a flirt and from the beginning, he flirted with her, so as the years passed, the flirting increased. It was a threat from him that she would be fired if she did not meet him outside the office. In order to secure her job, she was in contact with her boss. She did not even want to see him, but for the sake of her job and financial problems, she was forced to do this according to her because she had no choice. Then I asked her, "Why don't you tell me what's going on? If you were being headed by him," there was no other purpose of her to speak to him besides chatting and having lunch with him. She did not want to lose her job either. Afterwards, she said to me, "I told you everything, just trust me." She said in order to find another job, I had given some interviews to different companies. I hope to find a new position shortly. In addition, I said that I would find you a new job as soon as possible as well. I thought she was telling me the truth at that time, but I was unaware that she was doing adultery behind my back with her old boss. The first thing that I did was send her resume to different companies, and I also spoke to my boss about fitting her into our company. Unfortunately, at the time we did not have any vacancy for new hires at that time. It has been 1 month since the company has not responded to resume. In the end, one of the companies for which I had applied for her job responded and called her for an interview, it appeared to me from her body language that she was not interested when I told her. That is, I could not feel that she was happy with what I said. A job interview was conducted for her and she was hired as a result. I thought I was going to be glad to see her working without any pressure now, but I was mistaken about that. As soon as she started her new job, her behavior began to change with me as she joined in a week's time. There is something strange about the way she behaves with me. Every time something happened, she blamed me for it, no matter what it was. In her job, she was so busy that she had no time for anything else. As a result, she spends a lot of time working in her office, according to her. I asked her about her job and she started blaming me that because of me, she was forced to join job and all the rest of it was because of me. As compared to the previous job, this was a much harder one to do. In response, I replied that you know very well why I forced you to submit even though you were being blackmailed by your boss at the time. Later, she did not respond to me and left in the middle of the night without saying a word. In addition to being angry at her, I also felt hurt by her. Because I had done all this for her, she was overreacting to me because she did not have a free hand in this job. Regardless, she has not spoken to me for the past week. It was one day that I opened her cupboard and found brand new undergarments inside. This is something that she has not used until now. Along with that, there was a black net lingerie that she had not been wearing previously. In my opinion, she did not wear this to me at all, so I am wondering who was she using this with. There was something wrong with what I felt. Due to the fact that I was angry with her at the time, I did not ask her about it. In that moment, I felt like I was being cheated on by her. I started spying her. I followed her every morning before I went to the office, as well as the exact time that she will be off. The first thing I noticed is that she got off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but she came home at 7:30 in the evening, which seemed odd to me. There was no sign of anything going on with her for a full week. There was a fluctuation in her off time. In some cases, she leaves the office at 4, and in other cases, she leaves it at 6. However, she always gets home in time. There was no doubt in my mind that she was having an affair. At least those lingeries were shouting the truth to me. On a particular day after leaving her office, she climbed into the cab and headed home. It was also because of her that I came home after she came home. Afterwards, she went into her room and took something from there before leaving. After asking where she was going, she replied that she was going to see a friend of hers. I was in the room when I entered it. There was a slight opening on one side of the cupboard. Maybe she forgot to close it properly because she was in a hurry. One of the lingerie items was missing from there when I opened it. When I got the idea, I rushed out of the house and followed her as fast as I could. It wasn't long before she reached a house, the location of which was near a beach. We were far away from the place where it was located. It took her a while to get into the house. It was hard for me to get inside the house because my heart was not allowing me to do it, and I was getting the thoughts that I had to see the scene which would break my heart if I saw it. In the course of 10 minutes, I had these thoughts running through my head. In my anger, I decided to break into the house in order to finish this matter as soon as possible. After climbing the tree that was besides the house and seeing from the window that they were in a room with a very dangerous height, I jumped into the balcony and broke a window in order to gain access to their room. Both of them were naked. The surprising thing is that the guy was her boss, who spelled dirty jokes at her on Messenger. It wasn't until Luciana got up without saying anything that I started shouting at both of them. In that moment, I noticed the cell phone of the man in front of me. The moment I picked up his phone along with her clothes, I rushed out of the room and locked both of them in the bedroom. As soon as I opened his phone, I found that a number had been saved in his contact list under the name of Love, which could have been his wife's number. As soon as I called her, I told her everything that had been going on and told her to come over. She came with her brothers, and we opened the door of her. It was the most shameful scene I had ever seen as I grabbed their clothes and stripped them both naked so they were sit on the naked. The brother of the woman he was married to began beating him. It was then that I gave Luciana her clothes and left the house towards my way and headed back home. Taking a bottle from the shop, I grabbed a chair on the beach and started drinking in pain while I sat there. Everything had come to an end. As far as I was concerned, I was unable to tell when I saw my life in the bed of anyone else. There was a feeling that I had lost my soul. Currently, I'm living my life with a broken heart, and I'm struggling to cope with it. I hope that I'll be able to forget that month from my life in the future. The only thing I would advise you of is to keep a close watch on your spouse or loved one when you're gone. It is likely that you will not have to suffer such pain as soon as you discover their truth.